Welcome to my kitchen. As usual, I have quite a bit planned for today. I'll be making sourdough calzones filled with sausage, a batch of sourdough muffins, my weekly sourdough sandwich loaves, and to finish things off, some homemade ice cream. My kids requested cookies and cream this week, so that's the flavor we're making. So let's get started. I'm starting with the ice cream base because it needs plenty of time to chill before it goes into the ice cream maker. After it's churned, it will also need several hours in the freezer to fully set. Today I'm making cookies and cream. The base is really simple, just 2 cups of heavy cream, 1 cup of milk, and 3/4 cup of sugar. I'm gently warming everything in a pan just until the sugar completely dissolves. Once that's done, I'll take it off the heat and stir in 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract and let it cool before refrigerating it for about 30 minutes. I'm making quite a bit of sourdough today. I mixed this dough for my sandwich loaves yesterday and it's been cold fermenting in the fridge for about 24 hours now. This batch makes 2 loaves, so I'll start by dividing the dough into 2 equal pieces. Since the dough is still cold and a little stiff, I'll gently shape each piece into a round ball and let it rest. This gives the gluten time to relax, making the final shaping much easier. While the sandwich dough is resting, I'll work on my muffins. The timing works out perfectly because by the time the muffins are ready, the sandwich loaves will have relaxed enough for their final shaping. Then everything will be ready to bake. For the muffins, I'm using some sourdough discard that I've been saving in the fridge. It's a great way to use up extra starter instead of letting it go to waste. I have about 2 cups of sourdough discard, 2/3 cup of honey, half cup of melted butter, 1 cup milk, and 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. I'll give all of the wet ingredients a good mix. For the flour, I'm using all-purpose corn today. I love using it for recipes like pancakes, pastries, and muffins because it has a wonderful flavor and a softer texture. I already have 3 cups of corn flour measured into a bowl. To that, I'm adding 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1 teaspoon of salt. I'll whisk everything together before combining it with the wet ingredients. I've doubled the recipe, so in theory, it should make about 24 muffins. But from my experience, I know I never seem to get that many. No matter how carefully I portion the batter, I usually end up with around 16 muffins. So instead of lining all 24 muffin cups, I'm just putting out 16 liners today. We'll see if this batch proves me wrong, but I'm not counting on it. And just like I said, I ended up with 16 muffins again. At this point, I've accepted that this recipe is never going to give me 24, no matter what the math says. So instead of doubling the recipe next time, I'll triple the original recipe if I need a larger batch. That way, I'll have enough muffins without hoping for those extra ones that never seem to appear. I'll set the muffins aside for now and move on to shaping my sandwich loaves. I've shown this process in more detail in a previous video, but all I'm really doing is tucking the dough underneath itself and using my bench scraper to create some surface tension. I'm definitely not a sourdough expert and I don't follow one method every single time. I just do what works for me and what fits into my schedule. Sometimes I shape the loaves first and let them cold ferment overnight. Other times, like today, I let the dough cold ferment first, then shape it after taking out of the fridge. Both methods have worked well for me. Once these are shaped, I'll let them rest for another hour or two until they are nicely puffed up. Today's schedule is a little unusual because my husband took all the kids to tennis. When they come back, it won't quite be lunchtime yet, but I know they're going to be really hungry, so I'm preparing a snack ahead of time. Today I'm making calamari. Everyone in my family loves calamari, but instead of using the traditional deep frying method, I'm trying the air fryer. I've made it this way once before, and it's not quite the same as deep fried calamari. It's still really delicious and a much lighter option, so I actually prefer this one. The first step is to tenderize the squid. I've always used buttermilk for this, but I didn't love the idea of wasting milk, so today I'm trying something different, which is baking soda. I'm soaking the squid in water mixed with baking soda for no more than 10 minutes. After that, it's really important you rinse it thoroughly because you don't want any baking soda left behind. That could give the calamari an unpleasant aftertaste. While those were soaking, I had also preheated my oven to 375 degrees to bake the muffins and the sandwich loaves. The muffins take about 22 minutes and the sandwich loaves take about 40 minutes. Between the calamari, the muffins, and the homemade bread, we'll have plenty of snacks ready for the kids. For the calamari, I'm adding half a cup of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of paprika, half a teaspoon of onion powder, half a teaspoon of salt, and half a teaspoon black pepper. I mix everything really well so the squid is evenly coated. I also add a little bit of oil to help everything crisp up in the air fryer and then mix it again. Next, I line my air fryer basket with parchment paper and cook the calamari in batches. I do not want the pieces to overlap because they won't crisp up properly. I'm air frying them at 400 degrees for 5 minutes. Then I'll flip them and cook for another 5 minutes until they are golden and kind of crispy. Once it's done cooking, I squeeze some freshly squeezed lime juice on top. For me, this is the perfect finishing touch. The acidity from the lime really brings out the flavor of the calamari, and I would never want to skip this step. Now the second batch goes in, and we'll repeat the same process until all the calamari is cooked. The last time I made this, I only made one bag, and my oldest son ended up eating more than half of it. So before everyone comes home, I think I need to do a little taste test. And it was really good. I'll definitely be making this again. I definitely couldn't keep up with the demand. The kids came home and started eating them right away. It was such a good thing to see. I probably should have made 3 bags of calamari, but thankfully I also had the muffins ready for them. I did a little taste test on the muffins as well, and they turned out really, really good. They are very mild with just the right amount of sweetness for me, and they have the added benefits of corn. If I had a little bit more time, I would have mixed the batter the day before and let it ferment, which is what I usually do. But today, since I was filming, this is what I thought of doing. That way, I could get the benefits of sourdough fermentation along with the nutrition from corn flour. But even without the fermentation, these muffins turned out delicious and were the perfect snack for the kids. I've added the ice cream base to the machine and it will take about 30 minutes to churn. While that's working, I'm going to start the main recipe for today, sausage calzones. I'm looking forward to this one actually. Of course, the dough is sourdough. It has been doing a cold ferment in the fridge for about 24 hours, and let me show you how I made it the day before. I started with 100 grams of active sourdough starter and added 350 grams of room temperature water. I mixed that for about 30 seconds just to combine. Then I added 500 grams of bread flour and mixed it for about 4 minutes, just until there was no dry flour left. I let the dough rest for about 30 minutes after that. After the rest, I added 10 grams of salt and 20 grams of oil. I mixed it on a medium speed for another 10 minutes until the dough came together. Then I started the stretch and fold process. I transferred the dough to a bowl and did stretch and folds every 30 minutes for a total of about 3 rounds. After that, I let the dough ferment at room temperature for about 4 hours before moving it to the fridge for a cold ferment. Today, I just took it out and I'm letting it sit on the counter for another couple of hours to warm up. While the dough is resting, I'm preparing the filling, starting with cooking the sausage. I want the sausage to cool down completely before assembling the calzones. I'm using regular Italian sausage for the filling. I removed the sausage from the casings and as it cooks, I'm breaking it apart into smaller pieces. I want to make sure the sausage is fully cooked before adding it to the calzones. While the sausage is cooking, I have a little time to prepare the cheese. I'm using low moisture mozzarella and I'm shredding it fresh. I'll set the cheese aside once it's done and keep it ready for when it's time to assemble the filling. The sausage is cooling down and the cheese is ready, so I'm going to move on to portioning the calzone dough. This batch makes 8 calzones and each piece is about 122 grams. I'm going to portion them out first so they are all the same size. This is also around the time that my ice cream machine finished its 30-minute churn. I should have actually prepared this step earlier, but I completely forgot. So I'm making cookies and cream ice cream today. So I need to have some Oreo cookies ready to add in. To crush them quickly, I placed them between parchment paper and used my rolling pin to break them into smaller pieces. I'm trying to do this as quickly as possible because I do not want the ice cream to start melting before I mix everything together. I think I added about 10 Oreo cookies, then turned the machine back on just until everything was evenly mixed. After that, I transferred the ice cream into my sandwich loaf pan, and it turns out this is actually the perfect size for storing this ice cream. I covered it with plastic wrap and moved it into the freezer until we are ready to enjoy it. Now let's assemble the calzones. I have everything ready: the cooked sausage, shredded mozzarella cheese, pizza sauce, and the portioned out calzone dough. For stretching the dough, I tried a few different methods. Sometimes I used a rolling pin to roll it out, and other times I simply used my fingers to gently stretch it. Once it was about 8 inches wide, I was ready to add the filling. I started with a layer of pizza sauce, followed by mozzarella cheese, and then sausage, and another layer of cheese on top. Then I folded the dough over to create the calzone and used a fork to seal the edges all around. If the dough feels a little sticky, just use a bench scraper to gently separate it from the cutting board or countertop. That worked perfectly well for me and helped keep the dough from tearing. I repeated the same process for all 8 calzones. The most important thing is to make sure the filling is completely sealed inside and there are no openings. So take your time pressing the edges together tightly. I found this sourdough to be very forgiving. My family loves a lot of filling and not too much dough, and this dough worked really well for that. It's extremely stretchy, strong, and surprisingly, it doesn't tear that easily. After shaping all the calzones, I brushed a little bit of oil on top. The calzone on the right side top is the one where I try to add extra filling because I know my family loves a lot of stuffing. It was a little difficult to close because I definitely overfilled it, but surprisingly, this ended up being everyone's favorite. So don't worry too much about making them look perfect. The shape really doesn't matter, and the filling actually stayed inside while they baked. After baking, nobody could even tell which one was the misbehaved calzone. After brushing them with oil, I made a small slit on top to allow the steam to escape, and I used my fork for that. Then I baked them at 425 degrees for about 25 minutes until they were golden brown. If you prefer not to use oil, you can also brush the top with an egg wash for a nice golden finish. Honestly, these turned out so good. I couldn't even get a video of my kids eating them because they disappeared so quickly. That's always the best sign when you are cooking for a family, when everyone enjoys it so much that there is nothing left to capture. This is later that evening, and the ice cream has had enough time to set nicely. Now it's finally time to enjoy it.
What flavor is that again? It's cookies and cream. Okay. I got
This was such a perfect day. Homemade snacks, fresh sourdough calzones, and homemade ice cream shared with my family. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.